Welcome in to episode 15 of our Let's Play Civilization 7 series here on the Match Boost YouTube channel. This is an exciting episode. We are moving up into the exploration age. The Antiquity Age has come to a close. We have finished and wrapped up our final turn, and we're pressing the next turn button to head into the exploration age. That comes with a whole host of things that we will be doing as far as transitioning from age to age. There is a plethora of different things we'll be going through as far as optimizing as you move up and all of the different things that are encompassed in a transition from one age to the next. This is arguably one of the bigger ones where a lot of important things happen that will set you up for success and that snowball that everyone is seeking to be able to roll to victory in Civilization 7. If you need to catch up on any of the action leading up to this moment, down in the description below is a link to the first episode in this series. You check that out and watch all of the action leading up to this moment in our game of Civilization 7. Here we are in our beautiful capital city of Axum, 4 turns away from a final growth that would have gotten us our last Howelt that we needed to put in, but alas, 4 turns too long. And so Axum will be 30 pop, which I feel like is pretty good actually, especially for a desert city. 30 population in the desert feels pretty good. We are on the last turn. This is it. Right here you can see 100%. Age progress 200. Final turn of this age. But we queued up a couple things like this archer. It won't finish, but it's still in my mind. I want it to finish, but it doesn't. The one thing I noticed that we did need to do actually is we have some influence left over, and we're not going to do anything with that because I just don't think there's anything worth doing with that. The other thing I noticed is we do have some gold. So let's go around and spend a little gold. We don't want to build in ancient walls we can't purchase. We can only buy bridges. I don't want to put any bridges in. We're not going to do that in Calo either. Lalibela only has ancient walls to put in, although we might do that. They also do have like a market or something, but I don't know. It's like baseline 2 gold. If we have leftover gold, we can. Remember, the reason we're doing this is specifically because we can only carry over, at least we used to be able to only carry over 3,000 gold. Saba actually has something interesting that we could put in. We could do Brickyard Saw Pit here in Saba, and I think that's actually probably a good idea for us. Where we put those, I think, is important. I think we'll just go ahead and slap in that right here. We'll just put that in, and we might as well put the fishing key in as well. And that's, I think, yeah, going to be the only spot for our key. So I'll go ahead and slap the key in as well. Actually, that looks pretty good right there. That looks pretty good. And then I think that's it. So that takes us back around to walls, I believe. So let's just start building walls. We have, actually, we only have 100. Okay, so we only have 100 gold left. So really, that'll take us there, right? 3,000. There you go. So we'll put walls in Lalibela, and that'll be that. I want the gold in my bank because our settlers, our scouts, and our boats do not transition over with us. We're going to get 1 boat. We're not going to get any settlers. We don't have any built anyway, and all our scouts are going to disappear as well. So in order to start exploring in the exploration age, we need gold to be able to purchase those units very quickly. And so that's going to be our goal, is we want gold to be able to get stuff back up and running again as fast as we can, which is quite important in the exploration age. Less important once you're on that patch 1.2.3, where you're able to actually transition the scouts and boats over with you, which I think is a very welcome change. Without further ado, we'll press the next turn button and move into the exploration age. There it is.
Knowledge was as precious a resource as gold or silk. Axum filled their vaults with it and amassed wealth beyond measure.
I believe they're picturing one of our Howelts. We did make quite a bit of gold. Felt pretty good. The rest of this information on these screens will give you just details about how you did. This is your rewards. In other words, how did you do in the legacy trees? This is where, again, I think it becomes very important to remember that, yeah, there's a transition. And I think a lot of people get hung up on the transition between ages. the transition between ages, I think, is made interesting and fun for me because of all the legacy stuff. You're taking all of the stuff you did in the Antiquity Age and you're transitioning it into the Exploration Age, not in a direct way where all of everything just continues on. You're picking and choosing how you want what you did in the Antiquity Age to impact the Exploration Age very specifically. And that, in fact, could change based on the type of game you're trying to play, the victory path that you're going for, how you want to play the Exploration, what civ you might be playing in the Exploration Age, what leader you're playing. I like that part of the transition. I know that's not maybe a popular opinion sometimes, but I think that it works really well in my personal opinion, and I find it to be quite fun to go through and do the transition process. And this will show you what the legacies kind of look like. So how many points did you score based on those legacy trees? So we were ahead by 1, and it looks like it was just because of that Silk Roads achievement, right? So lots of decent scores from the AI here. These were just the ones that we know of, right? There are, I believe, 2 more, or even 3. I think it's 2 though. 2 more AI on the distant lands that we will have access to here shortly. Get a little bit of experience. That's one of the kind of nifty features of Civilization 7 is you do get experience, which levels up your kind of overall profile, but also levels up your leaders, and that gets you access to different mementos and different things like that. So there's kind of a nice kind of progress oriented, like if you complete a game, if you complete an age, you earn a little bit of that experience. It also depends on how many of those legacy paths you finish. That's how many like points you earned for XP and stuff like that. So it's kind of an interesting system. I haven't messed around with it too much, but I do think that it's a fun add to the game for people who like that sort of thing. Let us transition. And our first choice will be choosing our new civilization. So again, one of the fun, in my opinion, features about Civilization 7 is that in each age, you do select a new civilization to migrate to. Your empire has kind of ceased to exist. It went through basically a transition, in this case due to the plague, right? And now we are going to emerge into the Exploration Age as a new civilization. Now, you could do the civilizations in a couple different ways. You could just pick whatever you want. And now there are actually options where you can just choose whatever you want, and you don't have to earn them. Most of them you have to earn, right? So you'll notice we do not have access to the Chola because we, A, weren't playing one of the civs that lead to the Chola, B, weren't playing one of the leaders that lead to the Chola, or C, didn't accomplish the specific goals to unlock the Chola, which is, I believe, you have to settle 3 settlements on the coast. We didn't have them on the coast, right? We actually had 1 on the actual coast. So there are certain things you have to do in order to meet the requirements to unlock civilizations in the next era. You don't always have to do those things because sometimes the civilization you play automatically unlocks other civilizations in the future ages, and the leader you play also will unlock certain civilizations for you, and you don't actually have to meet the like in-game requirements to unlock them. But you always can unlock everybody if you try, or in the settings, you can always just change it so that everyone is unlocked automatically. You could obviously do this via geography, right? So we actually are pretty much doing that, right? We are going to move from Aksum to Songhai, which geographically speaking are relatively close to each other, from my understanding. And Civilization for Axis has done a great job of making it make sense. Like the Aksum people would have come first and the Songhai people would have come next. Very similar to how the Normans followed, from Rome and things of that nature, right? So there's normal kind of transitional things. Now, you don't have to follow that. You could go to the Shawnee or to someone completely different, and sometimes that actually makes for some very, very intriguing combinations when you think about leader combinations, or specifically when you think about the tradition policy cards that you get from your old civ that you get to keep moving into the next age. Sometimes those policy cards, the tradition policy cards that you get to keep, can make a big difference and a big impact on who you might pick as a civilization, because they might benefit that particular civilization in the next age, which is pretty fun to kind of start to strategize around. What do you want to do? How do you want to make your move? Who do you want to choose? And honestly, I think for the most part, you can pre-plan some of these. And that does make it more fun probably to keep those things in mind. For example, we've been keeping in mind that we were going to pick the song high and have access to the caravansary, and that's smart, right? But you don't have to do that. It may not be optimizing it if you don't, but the game will sometimes dictate like, oh, you know what? I'm surrounded by heavy aggressive leaders and I need more military. So maybe I am going to go Norman or Bulgarian or something and really be able to push out a military quickly. That could be a thing that you choose to do if the game like dictates that might be necessary for you. But most of the time, I think that it's nice to plan out like, well, if I'm going to play this leader that synergizes well with this particular Antiquity Age civilization. And that probably means that there's some synergy going into the Exploration Age. The Modern Age, I think it's actually less important to try to synergize with, but we'll talk about that when we get there. But we are going to play the song high. That was a decision that I had kind of made pretty early on. We did end up settling. We had three cities that we have on Navigable River. And so if we click the View Details button, we can actually view the whole screen on them, which is pretty nice. So we will be playing the song high. Tariq al-Sudan, +2 resource capacity on cities on navigable rivers, and your trade ships cannot be plundered on navigable tiles. +3 gold for every active trade route. Get our trade on a little bit. And they can generate homelands treasure convoys on navigable rivers after completing the Kanta Civic. We'll talk about that when we get there, but it's a pretty powerful bonus to be able to generate treasure convoys out of your homelands. It is not something that almost anyone could do. I believe the Mongolians could do this as well as part of a war kind of related thing in the homelands. But the Songhai are one of the very rare civilizations that can actually generate treasure convoys, not from the distant lands, which is pretty nice. We also get access to the Gold Bangles Infantry, the Songhai Unique Unit, +5 combat strength when fighting on resource tiles. So remember, we were kind of wanting to fight on desert. Now desert and resources are going to be very powerful for us to fight on if we end up in any battles. Those units also get plus 100% gold from pillaging trade routes, which is not something I often do, but maybe if someone declares war on us, we could go look for some trade routes to pillage. You also get access to the Tajiro, and I'm probably not pronouncing any of that correctly, of the Songhai Unique Merchant. It's cheaper to produce, and they can establish trade routes just like any other merchant. And when you create a trade route, you receive 100 gold if it is a trade route with at least one navigable river. So as long as the trade route goes through or into a navigable river, you get an extra 100 gold for creating that trade route, which is not bad. Honestly, the fact that they're cheaper to produce is probably the most potent factor here for them. Then we have the Caravansary, and I pronounce it differently all the time, but the Caravansary is a very powerful gold unique improvement. So much like the Howelts of the Axumites, the Caravansary is a unique improvement, not a unique building, and so we can put them down more frequently and gain the yields from that. The base gold yield from these is +5 gold. It gets +1 gold adjacency for navigable rivers and resources, which gets a little tricky because your districts also get bonuses from navigable rivers and resources, depending on which district it is. And so optimal spots you've sometimes already used potentially for some of those things, but it does make towns more worthwhile because you can get those caravansaries in the towns that you might not be putting buildings down in for those adjacencies. Does does not remove warehouse bonuses on the tile, similar to all unique improvements. But the big catch here for the Caravansary is it must be built on an existing improvement on desert or plains. So our city of Ohatu, which is fully tropical, won't even be able to build one of these because it has to be built on desert or plains. And that is the limiter on the Caravansary. It needs some sort of limiter because it's a very powerful building, as we'll find out here shortly. Let's choose the Songhai, and we'll move into the Exploration Age.
And desert alike, the Songhai venture forth into the land. Stirred by the songs of the griot and driven by their passion for profit and God alike, they seek out the riches of the world. Ride now with them, whether driven on by ambition or virtue, and lay claim to what you can.
The loading screen once again gives you a lot of great stuff, including the lovely narration from Gwendolyn Christie. The nice thing that you can actually compare really quickly is you'll notice we can read about the Songhai Empire again, but we can also go back and remind ourselves about Amina, +1 resource capacity in cities, +1 gold per age for resources assigned to cities, and that +5 combat strength in plains and desert, which we're also going to combine with our +5 combat strength on resource tiles. So if we're on a resource plains or desert tile, our units will have +10 combat strength in this age, which is pretty dang powerful. You'll also notice the synergy, +1 resource capacity in cities, +1 gold per age per resource assigned to cities. The Songhai have +2 resource capacities to cities and navigable rivers. And that allows us to slot a lot more resources to take advantage of that +1 gold per age for each resource assigned to our cities. The more resources we can assign to cities, the more gold we're going to get based on being a Mina, and we can assign more resources in cities on navigable rivers because we're playing the Songhai. So there's a nice little bit of synergy there between those two. What you will notice is it's almost like the game loads anew, right? We even have to turn our yields back on, put our yields back on, and I'm interested in seeing, does the new wonder text take place? And it looks like it has, because we now have a gold on this barracks blacksmith tile, which is coming from the new Petra, right? The new text on the wonders we talked about. It didn't take place last time, but now that we've effectively loaded the game anew while moving into the exploration age, the new text for wonders has taken place. I think that's a benefit to us, to be honest, because I feel like Petra was essentially buffed. I also feel like Pyramids was buffed too. So now we get +1 production on improvements. So that production is still there on the improvements on desert tiles. And then the districts are also getting +1 gold. So it was a little bit of a nerf to rural tiles while buffing urban tiles, but I think that that's going to be useful for us. Is this desert though? So there's no, oh no, that's plains. Okay, these are plains, which is why there's not gold on these. This one has the gold on it. That's that +1 gold, right? From Petra. And then for pyramids, we had +1 gold and production on improvements and districts on minor and navigable river tiles. This is just a straight buff to pyramids, right? So now all of these tiles stayed the same. And now this tile on a navigable river gets the +1 production, +1 gold that it didn't have before. So it's literally just a benefit to us, just a boon to us in that way. I believe there was I don't think there was a nerf. They might have nerfed the number a little bit. Maybe the number is lower. It might have been +2 production or +2 gold or something like that. I can't remember on tiles in the old pyramids. So we might have received a little nerf to some tiles, but overall, I think we made off pretty well in that particular way. So the other change, the Gate of All Nations only grants that +1 war support now. It was a pretty uber powerful wonder. So they did nerf the Gate of All Nations a little bit, but on the plus side, it does provide +2 happiness, which I don't think it did before. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think it did. So there are certain nice benefits to all the wonder rebalancing they did in patch 1.2.4, and that will be something that we'll see and experience as we go through the rest of the age. Now, we have a billion decisions to make. Okay, maybe not that many, but it's definitely a lot of decisions to make as we enter in to the age. You will notice our gold production went down to whatever the baseline was going to be. So our baseline gold for this era is 269. You'll notice that indeed the 3,000 gold was what we carried over. So we only carried over 3,000, and then we got 3,000 plus whatever the baseline was when we hit the turn. So 3,269. And then the same thing happened with our influence. We carried over 500. We have 39 baseline influence coming into this age. So when the turn turned over into the first turn of the exploration age, we ended up with 539 influence. That is a very important thing because we will start to invest in free peoples here during our kind of opening act of what we're going to do. Now, to get started, we have to choose our legacies. This is a rather complicated process that can take some time, especially if you're trying to min-max a little bit. The legacies are what officially kind of kick off the exploration age. And we need to carry over our legacies from the Antiquity Age based on what we were able to accomplish. And all of that was found in those legacy trees. The rewards for such are basically found in there. Based on how far you got in each legacy tree, that's how many points you have to spend. You can get up to 3. So you'll notice over here, we have 3 to spend on science legacies because we finished the science tree. We have 3 to spend in economic legacies because we finished the economic tree. We only have 1 in packs because we only got to the first level. And we only have 2 in cultural because we got to the first 2 levels, right? So that's how many points you get to spend in each of the areas. So our first selection is we have 1 militarist point to spend. So we can either get a militaristic attribute point or an expansionist attribute point. And what I like to do, and I'll do this probably a bunch, I'll probably be editing a little bit here just to make sure it's at least a clean transition, a faster transition. But what I like to do is I'll take a look and see, okay, so I can get a militarist or I can get an expansion. You can click view map and actually exit right out of this, and we can go over to our attributes and we can see, okay, if I take a militarist point, we can get free war support or plus combat strength against city-states and progress down the militarist tree. Or we can get an expansionist point, which will get us closer to this, which is gain +1 population in towns. New towns start with an additional population. This is something that I feel like you really want to try to get to in any game of Civilization, and we are 2 away. So we'd actually need 2 expansionist point or an expansionist point and a wildcard point in order to be able to get to this. So I'd like to be able to get to that as quickly as possible because it's obviously very nice. So we're gonna take the expansionist point in that particular case, right? So we jump back to our legacies and we'll select the expansionist point. That will take care of our militarist point that we have to spend. And so now we'll move down into our cultural picks. We have 2 points that we can pick within a culture. Minister the Sick gains the Piety Civic for free and 50% production towards temples. Minister the Sick is very potent if you are looking to establish a religion very quickly and get off the ground running with a religion. In the Exploration Age, you do get to create a religion for the first and probably currently only time in Civilization 7. You got to pick a pantheon in the Antiquity Age, and you get to pick a religion and create a religion in the Exploration Age, and it plays a large role in one of the trees as we go through. I believe it's the cultural tree. And that will be a big part of it is the introduction of missionaries and religion spread and what your religion can do to benefit you and different things like that. The Piety Civic is what unlocks the ability to build temples, and the temple, when it is completed, is what actually unlocks the ability to create a religion. And the religions, when you create them, very similarly to how things happened previous in Civilization 6 or previous civilizations, you do get locked out of certain benefits from those religions once people have chosen them, and so getting there first is very helpful. You can also choose Wondrous Heritage. Wonders you control gain +1 culture, +2 happiness. I've never picked this one before. Maybe you built enough to make that worth it. You can also get a diplomatic attribute point or a cultural attribute point for 1 apiece. I actually think it's probably worth it to take the attribute points here. Minister the Sick always calls to me because I'm all about getting a free civic. A free civic means I don't have to spend that time researching that particular civic, right? We don't have to spend our cultural points on that. And 50% production towards temples, which I'm probably going to build pretty quickly. It's hard to pass this up. The points here can be very, very useful, but I think I'm just going to spend my 2 on Minister the Sick. The next thing that we will jump in and choose is our legacies for the merchant path. Silk Road's Golden Age. All of your cities from the previous age remain cities. This is very useful and probably one of the most common choices to make when you're choosing your legacies for the merchant path. This would make all your cities, which we had 3, and this is why we're probably actually not going to pick it. We had 3. It will keep them all cities. Remember, you have to pay gold to transfer a town to a city. At the age transition, all of your cities become towns again, except your capital and possibly your new capital. And that's actually why we're probably not going to choose Silk Roads, because if we go down here, we can change our capital. So we can make either Kalo or Ohatu our new capital. This is fully based off of population. So if you want a particular town that you have or other city to be your capital in the next age, you have to make sure it is one of your top 2 populated cities outside of your current capital. Kalo and Ohatu are our top 2 populated ones. I am going to make Kalo our new capital. This is where it becomes very interesting because our Kalo will remain a city. It automatically will upgrade to a city and be our capital. And Axum also will remain a city. That's what the text says. It also doesn't cost anything to do this. It is something you can choose to do for free. So if we change our capital to Kalo, and we have Axum remaining as a city now and Kalo remaining as a city, The only city that we have left is Oahu. We would be spending 2 of our attribute points on the Silk Road's Golden Age just to make Oahu a city. It is not worth that because it only for the 3rd city, it's not very much. We'll find out here in a little bit how much it is, but it's not very much to keep that city upgraded, especially when it has all the buildings in it already, because that actually makes it like cheaper, I think, to build when it has the like more districts means it's cheaper to upgrade. And so it's when you only have 3 cities, if you're moving your capital, I don't think it's worth it to choose the Silk Road's Golden Age. However, if you have more than that, or if you're not moving your capital, I think it is very, very useful to do this because otherwise you have to pay to convert them and you're slowing down some of your production in those cities right away. So I do think that it can be very useful. It's probably one of the more useful ones, especially if you have a lot of cities coming out of the Antiquity Age. We can also get Master Caravaneer, plus 5 gold for every trade route in Antiquity. That gives us 35 gold. That's not bad, but we can just take these economic attribute points, and if we go back to our attribute tree, and you can see how much you kind of bounce back and forth here. I kind of wish there was a button to go straight to this, but we are pretty far on this tree, so we could probably just grab, like, man, we could get a lot of possible, like, really powerful things if we jump down this economic tree. So I am relatively certain that if we go back out to our legacies, if we scroll down to here, we have 3 points to spend here. Now, the pain of this is if we take 2 economic attribute points, you could take up to 2 of the attribute points. Can't take any more than that. So we actually will have a leftover economic point that we're not spending if we take 2 economic attribute points. I'm relatively certain that this is worth it for us. I don't think this 35 gold per turn is going to make a difference. We're going to be making way more gold than that. And I think it's going to be minimal to take this Master Caravaneer. And I don't think the gold we would save from the city is worth it. I think that these 2 economic attribute points are going to be the most powerful way that we can spend our 3 points here, despite the fact that we're going to leave 1 on the table. You could do that. It'll warn you that you're doing it, but you certainly can do that. In the science one, we also have 3 to spend. We can take the Great Library Golden Age. Academies become Golden Age academies. They retain their base yields, adjacency bonus, and effects in the next age. A lot of people will take this. I don't see the value. You have to have quite a few academies to make this worthwhile. We only have, I think we ended up with 3 academies. So 3 academies would retain their base yields. Remember, upon move up, all of your non-ageless buildings, library, barracks, academies, right? All of your non-ageless buildings lose their adjacency bonus and any extra text that they have. So remember, the bath has a 10% growth bonus on it. That text goes away. The adjacency bonus goes away. So your barracks, which gets adjacency from your wonders and from your resources, those adjacencies go away. Only the baseline yield is what carries over. But I don't know how nice it is unless you have quite a few academies. I also say Collector of Knowledge, plus 1 science for every codex in Antiquity. That's plus 12. Don't feel like that's probably worth it. And I feel like we might kind of be doing the same thing here. We might just take 2 scientific attribute points and then leave a point on the table, possibly. Again, if we go and look at our attributes, if we go over to the scientific, we don't have a single scientific attribute point yet. We haven't put anything into science. I will make note of this one right here. Plus 20% gold and happiness towards maintaining buildings. This particular one is incredibly powerful. You will gain a ton of gold and a ton of happiness if you get to this particular attribute on the science tree. We're pretty far away from that, but we want to try to get as close to it as we can. If we take 2, number 1, we're going to get plus 1 science per age in the palace and city halls. That's actually going to be very useful for us. And we're going to get 15% production towards constructing buildings. Another really, really nice attribute to have. And then we'll get closer to this 20% gold and happiness towards maintaining buildings as well, so that we can choose that when we get another scientific attribute point. So I think that's actually the most worthwhile thing for us to do, again, with this particular piece of our legacy points. So we've got those 2 locked in. We now have, to be able to finish our selection here of our legacies, we have 1 wild card attribute point. And this is actually going to become very, very tricky for us. So here is the thing that we're going to need to consider. We have one attribute point left that we can use. We have 1 point we can spend anywhere, okay? We could spend that point, that wildcard point, on one of these specials, right? So we could grab one of these if we wanted to, because we have a wildcard to use on those. So if we wanted Silk Road still, even though we took the 2 economic attribute points, or if we wanted Great Library Golden Age, we could use the wildcard for that. Or we can choose to pick another card. What card will be the most effective for us? That is what becomes the biggest question, right? So we go back into our attribute points and we start to look at where do we need something to really impact us. Here's where I think we actually need to go. We only have one attribute point into the diplomatic side of things. This right in the center, 50% influence towards initiating and progressing the befriend independent action. To get the most suzerains possible, to get the most city-states following us as possible, this is a reduction of 50% cost on influence. It is a huge deal to have this specifically at the very beginning of the exploration age. It is a very big deal to have access to this. The other one we might think about is trying to get to this. We also might go to the expansionist one and try to get to the +1 population in towns. This is also very, very nice. But I think the most important one is going to be this diplomatic attribute point so that we can get more suzerains and spend our influence more wisely at the beginning of the exploration age. So that is what I am going to take for our final wild card. We're going to come all the way back up to the top, and for our wild card, we are going to, we're going to come all the way back to the cultural side, and we're going to take a diplomatic attribute point. That spends all of our available points. You'll notice everything has grayed out now. We are leaving on the table 1 science point and 1 economic point just because we decided to take cards instead of taking some of the other bonuses you can get. Some of those other bonuses are very valid, and we may want to take them in different circumstances. I'm going to go with the cards. I think legacy cards and those attribute points are very, very powerful. So that is what we are going to do. Once we press this confirm button, all this locks in, and we'll be moving into the actual turn itself. I do have unused legacy points. I do want to continue.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
So we have unlocked our first civic because we chose to unlock piety for free. That feels very good. So we now have access to piety right away. And the best part about that is we'll probably just buy in a temple because we have access to temples right away. So we buy in a temple, and that will instantaneously get us our religion on the first turn of exploration, which will ensure we have the access to the very first religion, which is super effective, right? So at this point, you can kind of just start running through all of your different things for the turn. There are a couple other things that you'll want to consider. We'll talk about that as we go through. So we have a new unlock for piety. It rediscovers all the wonders for you for some reason. It also tells you about people who finished wonders before, which again, these are, I don't know why those pop up, but they do. We have access to the Songhai Civics, which we should take a look at. So let's go ahead and look at our civics tree. We have the Exploration Age Civics, which you'll notice is a whole new tree, which is pretty exciting to be able to explore. We've already finished Piety and have access to the temple, so that's handy for us. We also could go get access to Economics, which would push us towards the Tomb of Askia, which we do want to build, if you recall. So that's something important that we want to try to go for as we head in that direction. And we have access to our Songhai specific civics. Now you'll notice the Tomb of Askia is our special wonder, which we get bonus 30% production towards building, and we can get access to it very, very quickly. That is the fastest access we can get to it, because if we want to get to it through here, it costs us 4 turns and then another 5, probably 9 turns to get to it here. The benefit, of course, of being the Songhai is not only can we produce it faster, we can also research it faster. And so I think our first civic, actually, because we got Piety for free, otherwise we'd be going Piety, our first civic is going to be Ships of the Desert. That gets us access to our caravansaries, and it's going to get us access to Tombs of Askia, which is a wonder we want to put in. So we'll go ahead and select that one. We have a lot of really nice things and benefits to think about in the Songhai Civics. We'll go over that more as we continue to select civics. You'll notice our relationships have changed a little, but not too much. Ada still doesn't like us. Frederick still doesn't like us. One of the changes they made in one of the recent patches is that these don't reset as much as they used to. They reset a little bit, and actually what they do is they regress back to the normal, to like 0 from both ends, whether they're happy with you or whether they're mad at you. They will regress, like as the age kind of progresses, they will regress back to the middle there. So just something to think about as the game goes about from the standpoint of diplomacy is you're kind of always regressing back to the middle now on those. We can start choosing productions, but actually before we do that, I do want to spend all of our attribute points. We spent all that time selecting our different attribute points. We don't have any culture to spend. We do have a diplomatic to spend, and we know right away on the diplomatic, we're going to go straight to this 50%. So we're going to go ahead and take that one. Once again, I really think they need a confirm button on this screen. I don't know how that hasn't been implemented yet. We have 2 economic points, and we are deep into the economic tree. I'd love to take this alliance one, but we don't have any alliances. We can get +1 resource capacity in cities, +2 if you have 3 or fewer cities. We're not going to have 3 or fewer cities probably for very long, but +1 is nice. +1 resource capacity in towns is nice over here as well. And we could kind of trend in this direction to get to that +1 resource capacity in towns. I think I'm going to go in both directions. I think I'm going to take the resource capacity in cities, and then we're going to start moving in this direction to try to get to the resource capacity in towns. So let's take this, +2 gold for every tech and civic mastery completed. This is not going to get us anything right now, just like this is not getting anything right now either, right? We have no trade routes active. All trade is canceled, and you have to restart all your trade relationships in the next age. So these will not be worth anything, but they will continue to be worth more and more and more as we go. Same thing here, right? We're not importing any resources. So getting some traders out is a big deal for us because we've pushed so far on the economic path of things. For expansionist points, we're going to take this +1 food per age on warehouse buildings, mostly because it gets us to this as our next one. So that's where we'll go here. We don't have any militaristic to spend. And we have 2 scientific, and I'm literally just going to move us towards the one that I think is the most powerful one, this 20% gold and happiness towards maintaining buildings. This is also good. It's going to boost our science by quite a bit. And this is also really nice, 15% construction on buildings, right? So we'll head in the direction we want to. There, we got all our cards in. And what we should have done, and what you can do if you're watching the YouTube video, is go back and look at our numbers for gold, science, and culture, pre-putting those in, and then post, and you'll get an idea for how powerful some of that stuff may have been. Although we haven't assigned resources yet, so that's going to be something that we probably need to do as we go. Let's choose productions. I would normally just build a temple. I think I would like Axum to be our holy city, I feel like. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and purchase in the temple. The temple has adjacency bonuses to mountains because it counts as a happiness building. And so we want to put it down in our happiness district over here. So we're going to build over top of our villa right away and go ahead and get the temple in. I'm just going to buy it. That will automatically unlock a religion for us. And it will make Axum our holy city once we create that religion. The first city that you build your temple in will become your holy city. And that actually does matter in a couple different ways. One of the nice things about Civilization 7 and religions is that you can't actually lose your religion. You always have the capability of producing missionaries. Any city that has a temple of yours, whatever religion it's following, if it was your city and it has your temple in it, you can always produce missionaries that are from your religion. So you can always get your religion back to some degree as far as spreading it is concerned and things like that. We'll talk about how all that works when we're actually spreading our religion later on in the age. That also means that Axum needs to build something, though. The stonecutter is a very, very useful building in this particular age. So it's definitely something that we want to put in. 2 food, but +6 production. And anytime we get up production, you know that that's a good thing to do. Obviously, gold is nice, and we'll get a bazaar in as we work our way towards things. Although we don't really have a great spot for our bazaar, if you recall, in this particular city. Let's check out where we might want to put this stonecutter. So one of the things we have to remember is this tile right here on the river is where we're going to put our mills. Our grist mill and our sawmill have to be on river. We could put it right here where our granary is and replace our garden. That's going to cost us some food but gain us production. I'm not opposed to that necessarily. We do want to make sure we maintain high food. We are playing another civilization that has a unique improvement, and so we do want continued growth to be able to put more caravanserais down. So let's build the stone cutter. I am going to put it there. It's going to immediately drop us down to 2 food, as you'll note, 3 food, as opposed to the 5 or 6 that we were getting. I think it was 5, so we lose a couple food. Not a huge deal, actually. And we'll get that down. It'll boost our food hopefully by a little bit more when it's down, and we'll get that production up in the city. We have trade opportunities, of course. We need to be able to potentially do that. We have gold to spend, so we might get some trade going right away. The next thing we might want to do is assign our resources. Our resource assignment is actually very important. You'll notice we have a lot of slots we can use, which is kind of crazy. But you'll also notice we don't have a ton of resources, right? We're not stacked for resources necessarily. And so we do benefit from having our resources in our cities and in our capital, in our towns. So we do want to put all these in that we can. What we want to do is take a look at what each of these does. Incense no longer gets you science. It now gets you 100% production towards missionaries and temples. So another thing you have to get used to with the age transition is the resources, some of them go away, some of them change into something else, and some of them, quite a few of them, change what they do. So incense is no longer a science-based thing that increases our science. It now gives us production towards missionaries and temples. We might be producing some missionaries out of Axum, so I'm likely to slot this into Axum since we might produce some missionaries out of there because it's going to be our holy city. The silk is the same. Silk still gets you plus 10% culture. I believe that's what it did previously. So we want to find our highest culture city. That happens to be Axum still, and we'll go ahead and slot that in there. We get Kaolin, which is now a plus 3 food to homeland cities, plus 6 food to distant lands cities. And so definitely something we could take advantage of when we get a distant land city. We don't have one right now. You'll notice that our new capital of Gao, I'm gonna have to look up how to pronounce that. I think it's Gao, is pretty good on food, 52 food. Our Axum, our desert city, still pretty low on food. Go ahead and give them the Kaolin. The Jade is 15% gold still, which I believe is the same. We're going to want to put that in our most gold-heavy place, which currently is Axum. This is not surprising. It was our capital. So we'll put the Jade in there as well, and we'll keep things rolling in that way. Now, we do have camels at plus 2 gold, plus 2 happiness, unslotted. However, I'm relatively certain, because of who we're playing, it's probably better for us to slot them. So I'm going to take a camel. I'm going to just put it in Axum. I'm going to put another camel in Gao. We're just going to get like a million things. And then you can see we desperately need to trade because we want to be able to fill these resource slots as much as we can, right? So we need to get access to more resources, and we need to be able to trade for those resources. We got a lot of resources up here that are treasure resources and empire resources. They're very powerful. They're doing lots of good things for us, but they're not slottable resources. And Amina and the Songhai really like slottable resources, so we need to find more resources we can put into some of our buildings. Ohatu currently has tin sitting in it. I'm actually going to move that into Axum because I want to put more gold there because we're getting that 15%. We might as well take that production bonus there as well. And that will be that as we roll in that direction. I think those are where we'll slot things for now. We're going to leave our towns kind of empty until we start getting more resources. We'll focus on making sure our cities are up and running. So that's what we'll do for now. One of the things we do want to think about, okay, is how much does it cost to make a town a city? Because remember, we chose not to make Ohatu a city going in. So if we click on Ohatu, we can see convert to city, 200 gold, measly 200 gold. Now, I do want to check on Lalibela because we do want to make this a city as well so we can build Serpent's Mound relatively quickly. Lalibela is going to be more expensive though. Lalibela is 300 to convert to a city, and that will go up as we go. Now, I am relatively certain I want to make sure Ohatu is a city to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and convert Ohatu right away. And we're going to find out how much Lalibela is going to cost us. We're going to spend the 200 to convert right away. We could actually put like a temple in or something to make this lower, but I think we'll just go ahead and build it. There we go. So now we have Ohatu is a city once again. And now what does it cost to make our 4th city? Might be expensive. Let's check. 700. So it did go up by a substantial amount. The next one goes up even more, and so on and so forth as you're trying to convert more cities. We do want Lalibela to be a city relatively soon, so we want to make sure we probably save the 700 gold for that as we're headed in that direction. We need to choose a science. There's a couple key sciences that we might want to go for early on in the age here. Astronomy is actually what we're going to go for. I wouldn't suggest it normally, but we want Serpent Mound. And in order to get Serpent Mound, we're going to have to get the research for it fast so that somebody else doesn't build it first. It is a pretty competitive wonder, in my opinion, and we want to be able to get access to that. Normally, we would be beelining for cartography because cartography is what gets our units in the water. It doesn't mean they don't take damage in the water. You got to get the shipbuilding for that. But our cartography will get your scouts and support units in the water. Civilians, so settlers, scouts, and generals, even if they're packed full of military units, can all enter the water at cartography. Boats can enter the ocean right now, but you need cartography to get your scouts and any civilian or support units in the water. You can transport military over the water, despite the fact that you don't have shipbuilding, which allows the rest of your military units to cross. If they're packed in a commander, they can cross using cartography. So normally I'd go cartography first, but because we kind of based the whole city around Serpent Mound, I'm going to go astronomy first, and then we'll go into cartography. That's going to set us back on some distant lands searching and looking, but I think that's going to be the best way for us to kind of go in that direction. We also have to put in our first social policies, and you'll quickly start to see that this turn is taking anciently long because there is a million things to do. You'll notice that right now we don't have too much available to us because we haven't unlocked a lot of our social policies yet in this age, but we do have our 3 traditions, these policies that come back to us from the Aksumite nation that we were using before, right? Support of nations, +2 culture and gold for every active trade route. We don't have any of those right now, but we will soon. We have +2 culture on resources on or adjacent to coast. I think we're definitely going to want to use that one right now. We get 20% production towards overbuilding with commune, or 15% gold in cities adjacent to coast. Now remember, we didn't build many cities adjacent to coast. Perhaps an error on our part because Aksum really benefits from that. We ended up building pretty inland, and we only ended up with 1 city on the coast, so this 15% is not super helpful for us. Port of all nations will want in, but not till we have trade. So this 20% production towards overbuilding is definitely something that we want. We are going to be doing some overbuilding. So we'll grab a little extra culture, a little extra production. That will be our policies. And we'll jump in and probably do some overbuilding right away here. I do think we want this stonecutter in next. Let's take a look where we want it. Right here is where the saw pit is. The way that I typically will imagine this is you have a bunch of ageless buildings, then you get some more ageless buildings in the next era, right? So we put down our 2 ageless buildings here. Our granary and brickyard have gone here together to form a district. That leaves our saw pit all by itself because we didn't have any other ageless building to pair with it in this particular age. The stonecutter slots in really nicely there because usually you're putting that in a spot where it doesn't have very much adjacency for your other buildings, your non-ageless buildings. And so the ability to slot the stonecutter in with your other ageless building that was left by itself, similar to what we did in Aksum, but we actually had a building there we were overbuilding. So we won't be overbuilding here. We're just going to be filling out this district. But we want to do this because, as you notice, our new city of Gao is specifically our capital now. And so it has a palace in the center, and that palace benefits from having completed districts around it. So if we put the stonecutter here, we're actually going to get that +1 science and +1 culture, which we kind of want. So we'll go ahead and build in the stonecutter. It'll be our first play there. We'll get that stonecutter down with the saw pit, get that adjacency going as well. That brings up our religion. There's just infinite things to do. You can pick an existing religion, then you can change. You still get to pick all your tenets, but you can pick an existing religion, or you can create your own. I've been using this particular symbol, and I enjoy spreading madness as my religion. So we have to, it's really odd. You have to click the check mark. Once you've edited the name, you have to click the check mark, and then you can press confirm. And now we get to create our religion. You'll notice that we have reliquary beliefs, founder beliefs, and enhancer beliefs. The reliquary belief is directly tied to the culture legacy path for the exploration age. You get relics from spreading your religion. The relics are what helps you move through the cultural path in the exploration age, you get to choose how you earn those relics for your religion. So every religion will earn relics in a different way. You can take icons. You get +2 relics for first time you convert a city-state. You can take Brahmanism, +2 relics for the first time you convert another civilization's capital city. Okay, so this is where you get to make a decision on, well, how do I want to be spreading my religion? Where do I want to be spreading my religion? And how do I think I can get the most relics possible? Now, we happen to know that we are going to go after city-states pretty hard. I personally think that icons is one of the best ones to go for because the AI does not focus on converting city-states, and we're going to try to convert as many city-states as we can into, we're going to try to create as many city-states as we can by becoming suzerains. So we might as well just convert them after we've done that. Brahmanism is the other popular one because every civilization has a capital city and you get +2 relics for first-time conversion. So if you just go first-time convert them, then you end up getting those +2 relics and you're kind of guaranteed to have them. The question mark with icons, right, is how many city-states are going to get destroyed? How long is it going to take for those city-states to get created? The capital city one is just like guaranteed, like go find their capital, convert it, and you get your relics. It's kind of a guaranteed way. I think you get more relics from city-states because there's usually more city-states on the map that you can convert, but I think it's just personal preference on that. Obviously, there's a ton of other potentials here. Icons and Brahmanism are your two best bets. I'm going to take icons because I like converting city-states. So that's what we're going to go with. I also get to choose a founder belief. Founder belief is kind of the first one that allows you to benefit your empire. There are lots of great options here, but one of them is essentially, in my opinion, broken and I think needs to be fixed. Well, I wouldn't be a Civ 7 player or a Civilization player if I didn't choose that one, right? So well, we can talk about any of these different ones. There's a whole bunch of good ones. Obviously, like +4 science for every foreign settlement following your religion, +1 science for each of the settlements you have following your religion. So it's just like spread your religion. Better if you spread it foreign, you get a bunch of science, right? So there's a bunch of different options here that I think are very good. A couple of them that I'll point out that are maybe my favorites or ones that I think are really, really good. If you come down here, some of these are new as well because they added a bunch. Chesed, if that's how you pronounce it, +4 production to your settlements following your religion. Convert your settlements, keep them following your religion, +4 production. Not bad. Not bad at all. Don't mind +4 production, especially early on in the age, right? Same with Feed the World. +6 food in your settlements following your religion. That's not bad. +6 food is a decent number of growth. Convert your settlements, reap benefits, right? Here's another one. If you want some influence, Tikkun Olam is pretty good. +2 influence for every foreign settlement following your religion, +1 influence for your settlements. Because influence is a difficult one to get, much more powerful to get extra influence than it is, in my opinion, to get extra science or culture, because influence is a much more difficult currency to earn, right? However, the broken one is right here. Shamanism. +2 culture for every tundra tile in a civilization's settlements following your religion. We're going to take this, and then I'm going to show you just how ridiculously powerful it is. The reason it's ridiculously powerful is because, for example, you might say, well, oh, +2 gold for every desert tile in other civilization settlements following your religion. Why wouldn't that be as powerful? Well, so the problem is, same with this, right? +2 science for tropical tiles. Desert and tropical tiles, yes, they exist on the map, and yes, people settle them. But there are more tundra tiles on a standard map than there are anything else. And for whatever reason, there always is people in the tundra, and there's always settlements that have a lot of tundra tiles in them. The culture you can get off of shamanism is, in my opinion, broken. It puts your culture numbers through the roof. It needs to be nerfed. +1 culture for every tundra tile, maybe. These, honestly, the other ones could probably stay the same. They're not as beneficial because there's just not as many tropical or desert tiles on the map. There are more tundra tiles just because of how the map distributes itself, in my opinion. Maybe the math behind that is not true, but I feel like it's much easier to find tundra cities and then convert them for this culture. So we're going to take shamanism because it's broken. Why not? So now what we'll do, right, if we look up here, Kanza, grassland, tundra, 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 Chickasaw. I bet you this is all tundra. Ooh, they got a little bit of grassland here. They're on grassland. So we have a little bit, not as much as I thought, but like tundra. Cahokia, almost all tundra. Oh, nope, they're in grasslands a little bit. Ooh, this map actually is not super conducive maybe to it. Still a lot of tundra. Every one of these tiles represents 2 culture for us. Every tile that says tundra represents 2 culture for us if we convert them. All of that is 2 culture for us. It's ridiculous. And look at, see right here, this is the tundra line at the south. The tundra line at the south is massive. And so all of these cities, if they settle something here, we're going to get benefits from that. It's going to be very powerful for us, I think. You could go with one of the other ones if you find a lot of tropical places. I mean, more power to you, you know, but like, look, the tropical is just, there's not as much tropical. This is plains already, right? There's a couple tropicals here, but it's just not quite the same. Shamanism is very powerful because there's so much tundra on the map. We have also a new civics tree, by the way. Once you create your religion, you get yet another civics tree. Wild. That's why culture is so important, because there's so much things to spend it on. So now you have 2 researches you can do in the civics tree for theology, which allows you to get extra charges on your missionaries. Pretty powerful. You also get a relic and additional belief from this. And reformation, which gets you bonuses to converting your own cities. This is important because there wasn't a lot of incentives to converting your own cities back when the game first came out. It's better now from the religions because the religions are a little bit more viable for that. But reformation was really important because it allowed you to get bonuses on your own cities, converting them. Before, there wasn't very much incentive for that. There's more now, so they've done a bit of balancing, but we're still going to stick with what we went with there from an Axum standpoint. We also get a narrative choice right away. Everyday piety. A furor erupts over religious icons as a few prominent religious voices declare them sacrilegious images. Production begins to halt, and existing icons are being snatched and destroyed all over the city. Interesting. We can embrace iconoclasm for 125 culture, or we can protect free religious expression and get 250 happiness towards our next celebration. Let's check our celebration numbers. We have 6 turns until the next celebration. We don't have a particularly important policy card to put in. Now, getting into a celebration would be nice to be able to pick our government. We'll pick our government, I think, on the next turn, and then that will get us a bonus, which could be very useful. I think I'd rather have that like initial just boost of culture. Like that feels really good. It's a whole turn's worth of culture. This is like 2 turns worth of happiness, though. I don't know. I think the culture is going to be more important for us. I think there's an argument for the happiness being more important there. We're still choosing production. We do have a stone cutter we need to put down here. That's going to go on top of our saw pit, so we can go ahead and build that in right away. That's a pretty easy one. Resource assignments we don't have to change unless we want to get a resource into Oahu. We don't need to grow Oahu because it doesn't have the ability to put caravansaries down because it doesn't have any plains or desert tiles, so I'm not super concerned about that. You'll notice that we don't have the lovely non-redistribution on. Continuity is the setting in the new patch from patch 1.2.3. All of our armies get scattered to the winds and just like randomly placed together. Continuity is such a nice change. I'm very much looking forward to playing with that in our next YouTube series. But for now, we didn't have that for this one, and we won't for the rest of the game. So all of our armies just get kind of scattered to the wind and then redistributed back into different places, which is kind of frustrating in my opinion. This is not bad though. 2 heavy archers with 2 of our gold bangles infantry, our unique infantry. And then it looks like we have one of our horses here. So we're just gonna go ahead and add to this commander. We'll get them in there. Probably want to leave an archer here as a defensive unit. I like that idea. Frederick still hates us. Ada still hates us technically as well. And that's just slightly problematic for us. Where is our other commander? Our other commander is over here in Saba, which is not the worst thing in the world. Again, we have 2 threats right now, right? Ada and Frederick both hate us, so where our troops end up is kind of that's dependent on that. I do want to take our old Bengals infantry here, and we're going to use the reinforce army tactic to get them into this army. I'm going to do the same thing here. We'll do reinforce army into our other commander. I'm going to go ahead and grab this courser and add it to this army. And this archer also probably could just move into the army. This army can probably sit. These guys will reinforce in here, and then we'll probably take this army over to the New World. And then there are a couple other things we need to think about, despite the fact that it says end turn. We do have a boat. which it didn't bring up on our movement, but we get 1 boat in patch 1.2.3. In the future, you get to, if you're on continuity, you get to carry, in fact, I think even if you're not on continuity, you just get to carry over all your boats now. So all your boats will carry over in the next one. And if you're on continuity, they'll even be where you left them, which is going to be really powerful. What we're going to do is jump out to here. We don't want to take any damage yet. We want to jump out to this spot and start crossing the open ocean because we can do that now with our cogs. And we want to find our path to the distant lands. The next thing that we will want to look at is the free peoples. Remember, we saved all this influence. We decreased the amount it took to invest in them. And what we'd like to hopefully find is a science-based free peoples. That is unfortunate. Stockholm is science-based, but Stockholm is hostile to us. And that is the... Oh, wait. Isafan is not... Oh, man, but Isafan is right next to our friend Ada, who doesn't like us. So Isafan is going to be our first investment. Why? Because in the exploration age, you still have the benefit of getting a free technology for each suzerain you get if you pick that particular option with a science city-state suzerain bonus. So that becomes the most powerful one to get first in the exploration age. So we want to go ahead and run this befriend independent. Don't forget, we've actually reduced this, right? Our cost to do that is reduced by 50%. So it's very expensive. If you don't have this, it's very expensive to run that in this age, right? So we're actually getting a deal by dropping this down to the 227. It would be very, very, very much higher. So we'll go ahead and befriend independent here. So if we don't spend the rest of our influence right now, let this get 1 turn in, then we'll invest in like Nishtapur, Damascus, Abilisa, right? We'll start to invest in these other ones. We want this one to finish first, though. Now, technically, I think it would finish first because we invested in it first, so we probably could invest again. But I'm going to go ahead and wait a turn to invest in the rest of them. Isfahan being the most important one to me right now. Let's go ahead and get that one invested in, and then we'll kind of move from there and invest more. So we'll save our influence for just a turn and then kind of move in that direction. The last thing to consider on turn 1 of the new age is what do you want your towns to be doing? All of your town specializations will have reset. So do you want to specialize any of your towns? Do you want to leave them growing? What is your plan from that perspective? We definitely want to keep our towns growing. You'll notice that Matara has gotten so big that it takes 24 turns for Matara to grow. That's a lot of turns, but we still aren't even working all of our Grand Canyon tiles yet, let alone we still want to get in some of our caravansaries here as well from an adjacency standpoint, because we do have plains desert tiles in this particular city. So we do want growth still here. So we really don't need to specialize Matara as of yet. Lalibela is the same. We're going to turn Lalibela into a city, but for now, we might as well take advantage of that 50% growth rate. So we're not going to specialize Lalibela. Now, if you have cities that you're like, you know what, we don't need to grow, or sorry, settlements, towns that, you know, we don't need to grow these, there are some great options early in the game. If you want to, the couple of them that are really important early, specifically Hub Town down here, +1 influence per settlement connected to this town. Hub towns can be very, very potent because they get you quite a bit of influence. Remember, influence is very hard to come by. We're only getting 37 of it a turn. It's very powerful. So if you want to optimize and maximize that, you can by making a hub town early. And so you might want to consider making a hub town early in your games as well, potentially. One last thing that you're going to want to do is, remember all that gold we had? We might want to spend some of that gold. Now, we bought a temple and a city already. We know we want Lalibela to be a city. We're going to go ahead and let it have that growth to give it a little extra growth for the next couple turns before we have access to Serpent's Mound. As soon as we have access to Serpent's Mound, we're going to want to make sure that we go into Lalibela and get it ready to be building that. So we probably want to make it, I want to make it a city, and we'll probably want to have bought the stonecutter in as well. So we'll probably be doing that on a turn. So we want to make sure we save 1,000 gold probably to turn Lalibela into a city, so that when we have access to Serpent Mound in 6 turns, we can get it down and we have good production there already. That will be the goal, right? As we head in that direction. The other thing that you might want to spend gold on are boats. More boats are good. And so let's come down to Oahu and let's go ahead and purchase a boat. The cog is our boat of choice. And so we'll go ahead and buy a cog here. That will get us a second boat to go and explore the New World in this direction. Probably even wouldn't go badly without a third boat. I'm going to go ahead and hold on that. And I'm actually going to... You could buy a scout to get the scout ready to go. And honestly, right here, getting a scout out to here is actually probably a good idea. I'm going to go ahead and purchase a scout. It's 85 gold. It's a measly amount of gold. So I'm going to grab a scout right away. We're going to want a settler at some point too. Let's grab one scout for here. Here we don't have like an immediate spot to cross that's like apparent to us. There is a shipwreck down here that we could go grab really quickly with another boat. Maybe this boat even goes and grabs a couple shipwrecks. That might be what we do with this boat, which maybe means we want a second boat to do a little exploration. And we might also want to think about some trade routes. So if we open our trade screen, Ravenna has a copious amount of resources, but we're looking for slottable resources. So we want to check for slottable resources. Well, I can't purchase anything from Oahu anymore. So in Saba, we're going to go ahead and grab a Tajiro. That is our special merchant. It only costs 85. Honestly, we should get a couple of these. That's cost is going up, so 115, but I want to get some trade out really quickly. I'm going to buy another one in Lalibela actually as well. 145. That feels good. In fact, honestly, I might just do another one up here, and we'll Axum can buy one as well. That's merchants, like basically as much as I can get. We'll get one out to each of our friends. Basically, we bought 4 merchants. We'll send one to each person on the next turn. That spends down our gold pretty well. Leaves us with a decent treasury for converting Lalibela when we need to, and also for potentially buying another boat if we decide that that's a thing that we want to do. Which honestly, like, I don't know, Echmara hasn't bought anything yet, right? I think I might buy another boat right away. Let's get a third cog in the water. Get a third cog in the water. So you notice I've basically bought something out of each one of our cities. They can't buy another unit anymore. We could buy buildings, but that will set us up really well, kind of moving into the next era here. And I feel like, as much as it's hilarious that we basically only played one turn in an episode, I think that is where I will call this episode a big episode moving into the exploration age. We are now playing as the Songhai. We'll start progressing through turns in this age in the next episode. Thank you all so much for watching. I know that went pretty slowly, but I feel like there was so much to go through. We didn't even open up the legacy paths and talk about them. We'll probably do that in an upcoming episode here. This is meant to be kind of my over-explained series, so we'll play faster in future Let's Plays on the channel. Thank you so much. Please feel free to ask questions, make comments in the comments section. Hit the thumbs up button if you like the content. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you want to be notified when we release these videos. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.